In an effort to combat corruption and promote security in the troubled nation of Somalia, the country's police force has arrested several officers at Aden Ade International Airport, the capital city of Mogadishu. The arrests were made following a pledge by the Somali police chief to crack down on corruption and work toward restoring stability in the Horn of Africa region.
In an effort to combat corruption and promote security in the troubled nation of Somalia, the country's police force has arrested several officers at Aden Ade International Airport in the capital city of Mogadishu. The arrests were made following a pledge by the Somali police chief to crack down on corruption and work towards restoring stability in the Horn of Africa region. According to a statement released by the Somali police, the arrested officers who were working at the airport's tax office are suspected of engaging in corruption practices and embezzlement. However, no further details regarding the nature of the alleged crimes or the identities of the officers have been released at this time. Corruption has long been a major issue in Somalia, with many officials and government employees accused of taking bribes, embezzling public funds, and engaging in other forms of illegal activity. The problem has been exacerbated by the country's ongoing political instability and security challenges, which have made it difficult to establish effective governance structures and enforce the rule of law. The recent arrests at Aden Ade International Airport are a positive step towards addressing this issue and promoting accountability among government officials and law enforcement personnel. The move comes 2 years after a regional court in Somali capital Mogadishu sentenced 4 health ministry officials for up to 18 years in prison for over-corruption and theft of public money.
Somalia National Army in the southern region of Lower Shabelle killed several militants and their bases destroyed. The Somali National Army has engaged in a long-standing battle against Al-Shabaab terrorist group, which has been responsible for numerous acts of violence in the country. A number of militants were killed and their bases destroyed by the Somali National Army in the southern region of Lower Shabelle. The terrorist organization Al-Shabaab, which is to blame for a number of attacks and violent crimes in the nation, has been the subject of protracted conflict between the Somali National Army and other armed forces. Several nations, including the United States, United Kingdom, have categorized the group as a terrorist organization. The government of Somalia has been working hard to get rid of militants and restore stability and security to the country. As a result, recent attacks in Lower Shabelle and Masagawa have occurred. To combat terrorism and extremism in the area, the government has been collaborating closely with its international allies, such as the African Union and the United Nations. The government declared its dedication to driving out the militant Al-Shabaab group from its strongholds, which poses a threat to the Somali people. The group fighting to overthrow the government has come under intense pressure and offensive from the government forces, supported by the local clan militias that aim to drive them out of the Hiran region of central Somalia. Analysts say Al-Shabaab often abandons areas before the army offensives, but the government is usually unable to hold recaptured territory, which allow the fighters to return. Al-Shabaab was driven out of Mogadishu in 2011, but the terror group is still capable of conducting attacks, targeting government installations, hotels, restaurants, and public places. In an effort to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebrations and encourage more forgiving society, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has granted clemency to nearly 130 prisoners from 2 prisons located in the capital of Mogadishu. Other prisoners, 127, were released from the MBC prison in ex-control Agoye, while remaining individuals received pardons from the Hamar Central Prison. In an effort to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebrations and encourage more forgiving society, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has granted clemency to nearly 130 prisoners from 2 prisons located in the capital of Mogadishu. 127 of these inmates received pardons from Hamar Central Prison, and the remaining ones were released from MBC prison in ex-control Afgoye. The choice was made in response to suggestions made by the Attorney General Office. After reviewing cases of the prisoners, the office came to the conclusion there were minor offenders who, in the event of their release, will not pose a significant threat to the society. The cases of the released prisoners included both violent and non-violent crimes, with the intention of implementing a more human form of government. The shift to more leniency is an important step in creating a more compassionate society in Somalia, where people can fully exercise their freedom without worrying about unwarranted detention. However, the broader challenges facing the country's criminal justice system are vast, calling for a holistic approach to bring about lasting change in Somalia's penal infrastructure. A significant step towards creating a more accepting and forgiving society in Somalia has been taken with President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud's decision to pardon nearly 130 criminals. A more improved justice system is made possible by this action, which gives many people hope. Diplomats and nationals from the UK, US, France and China are to be evacuated from Sudan by air as fighting there continues, a statement from Sudanese army says. Army Chief Fatah al-Burhan agreed to facilitate and secure the evacuation in the coming hours.
Sudan's army said that it has agreed to help evacuate foreign nationals as sporadic gunfire and airstrikes echoed across Khartoum despite promises by warring sides to cease fire for 3 days after a week of strife that has killed hundreds. The statement cited Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhani came after promises by rival Rapid Support Forces RSF leader Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hamidti, to open airports for evacuations. Sounds of gunfight continued overnight but appeared less intense on Saturday morning than on the previous day. The army and paramilitary RSF, which are waging a deadly power struggle across the country, had both issued statements saying they would uphold a 3-day ceasefire from Friday for Islam's Eid al-Fitr holiday. The US and some other countries have readied efforts to evacuate their citizens. The army said the United States, Britain, France and China would evacuate diplomats and other nationals from Khartoum. Saudi Arabia's embassy had already been evacuated out by land. Sudan borders 7 countries including Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia. The violence was triggered by disagreement over an internationally backed plan to form a new civilian government 4 years after the fall of autocrat Omar al-Bashir and 2 years after the military coup.
That's all we had prepared for you for tonight's bulletin. Have yourself lovely holidays. Eid Mubarak to you all and have yourself a lovely night.